Right. That all seems to work.
Amazingly.
Yeah, it is amazing. I just so that you know, I do all these little checks just before we go live. So I put that little holding slide on, and then I go and check the Facebook group and all of that kind of stuff just to see that it's working. And sometimes it is, and it's relatively straightforward, and other times it's a little bit more complicated. But today it was all seamless, thankfully. So I'm joined today for the WP Builds weekly WordPress news. I'm joined by Vlad Olaru from Pixel Grade, who's over there. Hi there, Vlad. How are you doing?
Just fine.
Good. And down, I'm going to get it wrong, down there, David McCan from WebTNG. How are you doing, David?
Good, thank you.
You're very welcome. So before we begin, do you want to tell us a little bit about just like 30 seconds and whatever you feel. Maybe we start with Vlad. What's your relationship with WordPress? Who's Pixel Grade? And so on and so forth.
Well, basically, I tinker with WordPress all day long, so I'm deeply connected to WordPress. We at Pixel Grade create themes, premium themes, and sell them through our own shop. So we specialize in niche themes, decisions, not options, that kind of thing. I'm a developer by trade and architect by passion and some trade. And that's about it.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Where would if we Google Pixel Grade, will we find a particular domain? Is it .com?
Hopefully you will find that. Yes, it's pixelgrade.com.
Okay, but hopefully Pixel Grade. It's always an interesting choice choosing the name of your company, because if you go for something super generic, the chances of you being sought rapidly in Google are pretty slim. But Pixel Grade, I presume that's a good one. You've got relatively little competition.
We got lucky with that one.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, thank you. Anyway, thanks for joining us, Vlad. And we've got David from WebTNG. Tell us about your relationship with WordPress, David. What is it you do? How do you spend your week?
I also tinker a lot with WordPress. I'm a community member and blogger at WebTNG and Elementor 360. And I'm an anthropologist by education, by training, and been a software developer for 20 years and now just focusing on WordPress.
I really didn't know you were an anthropologist. That's fascinating. Yeah. So like human civilization, I presume anthropology doesn't extend out into the sort of the animal kingdom, does it?
Right.
Okay, right. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's fascinating. Right, when this call is finished, I'm going to ask you about that, because that's something which really presses my buttons. We're here today to talk. Let me just put these little banners up, because every week I get lost in where we are. So we're going to be looking at the WordPress views for the week commencing the 27th of January. So basically it's the last week's news, a few bits and pieces that I've picked up along the way. And if you want to make a comment, there's really there's 2 or 3 places you can do that. But the way the software that we're using works, if you go to wpbuilds.com/live, you'll see a YouTube video, and so long as you're logged into your YouTube or Google account, you can make comments there and they'll appear in our little stream, and I can pop them up on the screen, rather like you're seeing now. Or you can go to wpbuilds.com/Facebook if you're a member of the Facebook group, and you can make comments in there. And somehow, I don't know what wizardry it's doing, but it manages to pull in the comments from all of those different platforms. However, it would appear that in some cases, it doesn't quite know who you are. So as an example, somebody's saying hello, but it says unknown. So I don't know why that is, but Leo is with us. So hi, Leo. Thanks very much indeed. We've got a second hi all from an unknown person. So I don't know what gremlins are in the system. Heinrich, just saying hi. And Peacher, who says, just going to say hi, and then back to being a serious person and working. Oh, thanks, Peacher, for dropping by, even if it was only for a very short amount of time. I'm going to pop my screen in just ever so briefly and let you know what it is that we do and so on and so forth. Let me just put a few things in line on my desk. Right, let me go here. WP Builds. So WordPress podcast primarily. We deal with WordPressy stuff pretty much exclusively. We don't really touch on anything else. This little link, subscribe here, gets you to this page, and we've got a couple of things which you can subscribe to. If you want to know about our content that we produce, then fill out this form. And if you want to know about any WordPress deals, which we hear about, fill out this form. And then, of course, you got the usual stuff like join the Facebook group, subscribe on your favorite podcast player and all that kind of stuff. And then lurking up here, we have our news archive, which amazingly has now got to 99 episodes. We're always dealing with this one, top left-hand corner, which looks like this. So if you want to click on that link, you can follow along with the news. If you click on this button, you'll hear me droning on for about 30 minutes. I'll record it and then send it out on Monday morning, so like a little audio podcast. But anyway, that's the stuff that we're going to be talking about. So probably best if I start on these articles. Are you guys all set to go? Should we give it a go?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. Well, the first one that I wanted to mention today was a lot of my news comes from the WordPress Tavern. I keep wanting to call it WP Tavern, but it definitely says WordPress Tavern in the top corner. This is quite nice. I mean, it's nothing that we haven't had for the longest period of time. There's nothing particularly new here other than to say that it's coming into WordPress core. Lazy loading. So we normally associate this with images. That is to say, you scroll down the page and blank areas sort of liven up with an image. And the idea is that we consume less data. So, and load our sites a bit quicker, because stuff that's not in the viewport doesn't get loaded. It doesn't have to be images. It could be, well, things like iframes or anything, I suppose. But WordPress is going to support this, but not in the same way that it's being supported until this point. Because right now you kind of need some sort of JavaScript library to do this heavy lifting in most cases. But the browsers, and according to this article, it says currently Chrome, Edge, and Opera are supporting this. So this is all going to be offloaded onto the browser to handle. And so there is the idea that WordPress is going to do this. And Felix Arntz has put together a plugin to do this, and hopefully give it a little bit of time. WordPress 4, which is 5.4, sorry, which is coming out in March, is going to have this in it, which would be really nice. And I know, Vlad, you wanted to talk about this. Obviously, developing themes, it's a pretty important part. Yeah. I suppose you've been advertising this as a feature for a long time.
No, not really as a feature, because like you said, there are lots of plugins that can handle this in maybe JavaScript or in a browser native way. But what I'm interested about here is that Google makes its presence in WordPress in a infrastructure level kind of way. So that kind of that is important to me, that that Google gets his passion for performance, because that's one of the things I like about Google, despite all the creepy ones. But you can't deny it. Google really likes performance, so they built tons of tools for developers, and they are pushing browsers into this direction. So I'm kind of glad that that Google has this impact on WordPress. It's a small step. It's rather tiny, but it's a step in the right direction if they keep at it. And WordPress really needed it because over the years we've had tons of people wanting to push things at the core level, but most of the time they stumbled, and all the initiatives just got stuck. And hopefully Google can put its might in the right place and then push things along, because just a simple thing like not lazy loading, but deferring or loading styles and scripts in a more efficient way kind of requires hacks right now. Yeah. So we don't have a basic infrastructure in place. So things that should be easy in WordPress, they are not, due to legacy and history and anthropology and so on. So I look forward to Google pushing things this way, because we are talking about WordPress. We are talking about 40% of the web. So yeah, this is going to have an impact far greater than, let's say, AMP.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's my take on it. It's,
yeah, thank you.
I'm happy for the direction the things are moving, rather than specifically lazy loading images.
Yeah, I'm interested. That normally I seem to see Mozilla, always crushing it with like bleeding edge technology. But I'm interested here to notice that it's Chrome, Edge, and Opera. Are they all based off the same? Are they all based off Chromium? Is Opera?
Yes, Opera is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why. So that's probably why those three are bundled together. So we're waiting for the likes of, I guess, Mozilla and therefore Firefox. Yeah. To come on board with this, but presumably if it comes into Chrome, it'll come into Firefox at some point. Yeah, so there we go. Do you want to add anything to that, David, or should we crack on, go on to the next piece?
No, I think.
All right. Yeah. We always have little sort of subheadings for the news that we do, and the bit that you just listened to is WordPress core. And some weeks this WordPress core section can be really heavy. There can be 5 or 6 things, but on other weeks, it seems to me, especially at this time of the year, this seems to be less top heavy. I expect in the run up to things like WordCamp Europe, things will start to hot up a little bit. Speaking of which, WordCamp Europe, oh, nice segue. Over on the WordCamp Europe website, I'll just click close and accept over there. The event is absolutely gigantic. I was lucky enough to go to my first WordCamp Europe last year, of which that is a picture, not my picture, I stress to add. It's just a picture of the main stage. And it was absolutely gigantic. It was really, really big. 3,000 people purchased tickets. And I think the vast majority of those managed to actually get there. But you can see from this picture, there were 167 people who were volunteering during that event to make it happen. So, they need people for all manner of tasks. It's a completely voluntary enterprise if you want to come on board. But the link in the show notes will enable you to get to this page, or, you can crib from the URL bar at the top there. But they need people for 1 day or 2.5 days. I think they're the commitments. In exchange, they will give you a free ticket to WordCamp 2020, which allows you sort of like to the after party and special pre-conference volunteer social, which is quite nice. And then the sales pitch that you'll get to meet new people and so on and so forth. Anyway, the point being that if you want to do it, read the code of conduct, make sure that you're willing to do that. And you need to fill out the form in the next few weeks. I can't remember what the cutoff date is. There we go. 28th of February, if you're wanting to get involved. So, yeah, I think that would be a really nice thing to do. The next one I'll do, because I don't think anybody's probably going to want to add to that. The next one, though, is just a nice little hat tip here. Vito from WP Feedback. He's often a guest on this podcast episode, doing the live one. And Jan, who you can see a picture of here, Jan has often been on this as well, but they've joined forces. So Jan has now joined the WP Feedback group. That is to say, he's now, I guess, employed by WP Feedback in the capacity of Chief Technical Officer. Beyond that, I don't really know too much. There's a little bit down here about how they met and so on and so forth, and hopefully their visions. Sounds like Vito believes he's a different kind of person to Jan, so they hopefully will complement each other. Jan, perhaps more technical. I can't remember the exact wording, but he's going to take on a different kind of role that Vito has. So well done to both of you. That's good. And last, in the community section, I had this one here, which I thought was quite nice. 5 booting code camps for developers to consider. Not the kind of thing that I find myself looking at too much anymore, but when I was a little bit younger and was cutting my teeth, this was the sort of thing that I wanted to do. Mostly I learned from books. I would actually purchase paper books and learn things in that way, and that seems to be going out the window. Well, that's probably not true. But got these 5 boot camps, which have been put together by Tom Rankin, of places where you can learn to cut your teeth in all sorts of things. And so we've got things like, I confess I hadn't heard of all of these. There's one called Actualize, one called the Tech Academy. What else have we got? Skill Crush. I thought it said Skill Rush. Full Stack Academy, and finally the General Assembly. And I know, Vlad, you wanted to comment on this, so over to you.
Thanks. I'm going to go on a bit of a rant here.
Perfect.
So I'm all about learning. So I learn I try to learn every day. I've gone to several schools, done your online schooling kind of courses, posts, tutorials, conferences, what have you. So everybody is learning online these days, for the better or for worse. That's not the point. But when it comes to bootcamps, I have mixed feelings, because I can understand learning by reading a book, reading a post, watching video tutorial or conference talk, and I can relate to whole video courses like on Udemy or Coursera. But bootcamps take things to a whole nother level for me. Not in terms of information, but in making promises and turning learning into a very compressed form, and sort of like going to the gym. So what I'm keen to raise awareness about is that people going through such bootcamps don't succumb to the pressure of making it, of pressuring themselves that if they don't get the job that they were promised, they are somehow less able to learn, or stuff like that. Because I'm quite taken aback by the promise that you go to a bootcamp and you have a job, especially these days with all the job mobility. And I don't know, some may get the job, some may not. But when you're trying to learn such abstract things, such hard things like programming, and you want to grasp it all in a couple of weeks, that's unrealistic. So that's just the beginning. You only get your feet wet. You will learn for the next 10, 20 years. So that's my take on it. That people should really understand what a bootcamp can offer and what it cannot. So
that's really interesting, Vlad, because it's not something I confess. When I saw this article, I didn't really see it from that point of view. I just saw it from the point of view of here's a bunch of interesting stuff which people might like to look at. But you're absolutely right. It hadn't really occurred to me. Of course, the notion that I probably failed to convey was the intensity of these little windows of time. You join this boot camp, and essentially you try to squash down into a very small amount of time a very large amount of information. And I'm sure that for a lot of people, you're quite right. The notion, and I'm sure, here we go. If you're looking to change career paths and save you time and money in the process, of course they do promise that. And I think you're quite right to point that out. It's not necessarily going to be for everybody. And if you don't have the time to allocate to it, the 10, 12, 14 week model or whatever it might be unachievable for you. So yeah. And I've never sat one. I've never gone through one. So I don't know what the scope is for. Well, I didn't manage it in 3 months. Can I do it over 6 months? Or do they kind of close the doors on you? I don't know how it works. So interesting. Thank you. Good point.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to say, a couple of people making some comments now. I can't decide where my mouse should go. There we go. We've got Hans from Sweden. Hello. Sorry, it says, now you're going to have to forgive me, Mans. I'm going to say Mans because I don't know what that accent does to the sound of your first name. So apologies for that. I'm going to say Mans. Very nice to meet you. Jean-Francois. Hello, everybody. That's nice as well. And there we go. Vito, who just mentioned. You just got a mention there, Vito, about you and Jan joining forces. So yeah, right. Let's David, anything to add on that, or should we crack on?
Well, I've known someone who went to a boot camp and got a job at a top company. But I looked through some of those courses, and there's a WordPress developer course on one of them, and I just wasn't totally sure that you would actually be a quote-unquote developer when you got out of that.
Yeah, I think
as Vlad was saying, there's a lot involved, and so
Yeah, cutting your teeth.
Expectations, yeah.
Takes a long time. Yeah, you're right. I guess it's maybe a good place to start. I think one of the primary things that they were trying to make in the article was that if you aspire to this stuff and you don't really have a way through, and you can't see yourself spending vast amounts of money attending an actual university, you know, bricks and mortar university with lectures in real time by human beings, then this might be a good way, and it condenses all that. But yeah, you're right. Interesting stuff. Okay, the next one that I am going to mention then is a friend of the podcast, David Von Gries, has actually in our plugins. Where are we? Here we go. No. Yeah, there we are. Plugins, themes, and blocks is our latest section. We've added blocks to it because I feel that that's the direction of travel. No longer just talking about plugins and themes, but plugins, themes, and blocks. First one that I've got for you this week is David. I don't know why I've linked to the article here from WordPress Tavern, because I could quite as easily have linked to David's page itself, which I'll probably do. Let me just see if I can find it. Here we go. Let's click that one and open that one instead. He's released a very lightweight little plugin called Swift Control, WP Swift Control, I apologize. And there's also a WP Swift Control Pro, which has got some additional features, and no doubt you can Google for that. But essentially, it adds a little bar here. So on your screen, it adds an alternative way to using the admin bar, which we all know floats at the top of your WordPress website when you're logged in. And I know that David, have you had a play? Did you want to sort of describe what you thought about this and so on?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty nice. This is the same team that created the Page Builder Framework theme.
Correct. Yeah.
Which is very stylish and, performant. And the same's true, I think, with the plugin. I did, I took a look at it, and I think that it's a really good example of a version 1. It's very useful as it is, but he put it out there in a way that people can start to use it and play with it and get feedback. And David has gotten a lot of good feedback. And so we're already starting to see some features rolling out, and I think it's one of those that has a lot of potential. I think he's going to add the ability to have different kind of curated link sets by user, user role. And that's going to make it really useful for things like membership sites or, WordPress as a service type sites. So
yeah,
it'll be something to keep an eye on.
It's really nice because basically when you install it, this is what you're looking at here. This is just a screenshot from the WordPress Tavern website, but basically that's what you get. That's your settings, just that one simple page. And over here you get the available widgets, which you then drag into this side, where if they're in this panel here, then they'll appear on the front end of the website in the box. Right, where's it gone? Let me try it like this, basically. So imagine this is your web page. I probably should have had a live demo going, but I didn't want to kill my Mac with having local sites running at the same time, so I didn't put one up. And all that you do is you just simply click on the button and it performs the action that it's supposed to perform. So, for example, if you click on the dashboard button, it will go to the WordPress dashboard. If you click on the edit post button, it will, do that. So you can do out of the box on the free version, you can enter the themes area. So that, appearance themes and so on. You could enter the plugins menu. You can add a new post, a new page, dashboard, edit post, and customize. Now, what customize does is it allows you to basically put in a string. You copy and paste a string, which is something that you regularly perform. So I don't know, and a good example might be you want to create a new custom field or a custom field group in ACF. So you copy that string that you would typically end up using, paste it in there, and that button then becomes that. There's a pro version, and you can see that it's got page builder support, custom control, unlimited of these custom controls, which if you want to do sort of technical stuff, I suppose is quite useful. WooCommerce support, logout widget, and custom post type support. The single biggest cool thing that I noticed about this was two things. Firstly, I didn't miss the admin bar one bit. I thought it was quite nice to have rid of it, because I just suddenly thought, oh, this is all I need. Typically, all I use the admin bar for is to go to the dashboard, mostly, and then I go from there. But also the fact that if you click the edit page one, so for example, this one, the edit page, it knows from what that page was created. So let's say, for example, you were using Elementor, it will know that Elementor was the thing that generated that page in the first place. So rather than taking your client to edit page and then they get all freaked out because they don't know what to do, it takes them straight into Elementor. So it absolves you of that problem, which I'm sure we've all had. So lightweight plugin, does one thing, does it well. Bravo. Well done, David. I don't know if you saw that, Vlad, or wanted to comment on it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I haven't played with it, but I like it that it's focused enough. So it has a clean interface and basically does one thing. And from what I saw on their roadmap, they are keen to keep it focused on on the stuff with the user permissions and the like. So way to go.
Yeah.
I too am keen of getting rid of that black bar.
Yeah.
So it messes with our themes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. When I joined WordPress, I came from Drupal, and David will know about this because David, I think, was a Drupal user. Maybe still is. I don't know. And one of the things that I immediately noticed was how much nicer the UI of everything in the back end of WordPress was in comparison to Drupal in that time. And I'm sure that probably is still the case. So that was whatever number of years ago. But slowly over time, there's a few things which rankle, and the admin bar seems to me to be one of those things that I don't usually have a need for. I just want it to go away. So David's plugin might become a stalwart of mine. Right, let's crack on with a different plugin. And again, David, I know that you want to comment on this. Now, this is a bit of a weird one. I've never done this before, but I'm linking to a spreadsheet because I can't really show you this because it's in beta. The only reason I've got this is because Amir from Toolset reached out the other day and he said, I've got a new version of Toolset with some mobile editing features. Would you like to have a look? And so I said, yes. And then he hooked me up with Agnes, who does a lot of their kind of outreach. And she sent me a demo version of the plugin, which obviously I'm not allowed to use. But I did ask if David could have a play, and David did have a play. So there's a few things here. Firstly, you've got to have Toolset. You've got to want to play with Toolset, but it adds some new capabilities to edit. And perhaps, David, if you talk us through them, if you feel able to do that, I'll try and keep up with the slides.
Okay. Well, before we get to the slides, I think Toolset was one of the first plugins that let you create single and archive templates in the WordPress admin area. And for a long time, the main way of doing that was by using Bootstrap and HTML and CSS and shortcodes in their views editor. And that was starting to feel pretty long in tooth and clunky a little bit, or a lot of steps. And so the team released Toolset blocks, which lets you create those templates within Gutenberg. And so it's much more like a page builder experience than kind of a coding experience. And this beta, what this is adding is that you can set the breakpoints for the different device sizes, and then you can adjust the padding and margins and the style options, whether things display or not, depending on device size. And so that's, kind of it in a nutshell. And I think the slides show some of the different places where they've added the controls, and they've done a pretty extensive job, I think, of adding it to the Toolset blocks. the blocks. I don't know, what are there, about a dozen blocks? Maybe?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. Primarily, I think, it's things like buttons and views themselves and
Images,
yeah,
headings, and
yeah,
text, string, and then text within, a custom field within a larger text context, larger text string, and so on. And so for each of those blocks, you have over in that kind of control sidebar the options as you're showing for settings for mobile, tablet, and desktop. So that's a nice thing. Thinking about it, I'm wondering, why isn't that a standard feature of Gutenberg? We're used to that with page builders.
Yeah.
And so so that's a nice thing. One thing I've noticed is that working with Toolset blocks, it seems like it's easier. You get a lot more kind of control. It's clearer when you have a larger screen because there's so much going on the screen. But it's nice, and for a long-term plan, Toolset blocks, I think, is a nice upgrade from views.
Yeah, so you're quite right. I think using the block editor interface, it becomes quite crowded quite quickly with all of the controls that Toolset add in. And I did notice that if I went over to, so at the minute I've got two monitors. I've got a 15-inch Mac, and it felt quite constrained. There were a few things which were overlapping. So, for example, the options to add certain things, my monitor squashed them down to the point where things were, going underneath, and that felt a little bit like there's room for improvement there. Well, not really room for improvement, it's just the way it is. But on a bigger monitor, it shone, it worked much better. So as you can see here, so for example, you can see the little icons. Simply put, if you want to, why you would want this, I don't know, but you might want to have a different font on a mobile device than you would on a desktop device. So basically, any setting to do with fonts can be set on a per media query basis. The same for example, font alignment, the colors of different fonts, and so on. And then they've got this sort of container block. You can hide certain elements based on the same criteria. That one I can see myself using a lot more. Things like, I don't know, a background video or a background image, which is just a bit too heavy for a mobile display. It could be hidden in that particular case. And then they go on to talk about the new grid block. And there's a nice feature here, something that's really was missing. Although it's very hard to see, there's this arrow here. So if you put in a 2-column layout with their grid layout, you can now simply drag this gray bar. And so instead of it being 50-50, you could make it 30-70 just by dragging it. And again, set that on a per viewport basis. And it just goes on and on. There's a whole load of stuff in here, which we can't go into, but you can see the same thing here. As an example, this grid layout, which could be a view, for example, or it could just be a list of posts. You can set different column counts. What I'm trying to say here is that if you've been using a good page builder for any length of time, none of this is new. But if you've been using Toolset, this is new, and it enables you to do a whole bunch of customization inside the block editor with the Toolset interface, and I liked it. I liked what I saw, and it's just around the corner. It might even be releasing this week. I don't know, but yeah, thanks, David. That was a good summation of it. Should we crack on? Yeah. Okay. So the next one would be, what have we got next? Oh, 2 stories on WooCommerce. I confess, I am no expert when it comes to WooCommerce. I don't really get involved with e-commerce websites, but I know that some of you guys do. Vlad, in particular, you said you had something to say about this. This is WooCommerce 3.9. Got a few more things added, and if you want to just take it away, I'll try to keep up with the scrolling.
So just like lazy loading, this is one step in the right direction for WooCommerce, because the old product blocks is just what the doctor ordered. Yeah, we've been playing with integrating Gutenberg and WooCommerce through a team, and this was the block that was missing. and it was unfeasible to do a custom block on our side. So the fact that the WooCommerce decided to put in the effort, it's just right. It basically allows one to create the whole product archives through blocks. So you can go full Gutenberg with WooCommerce now. So that's just sweet. And the second important part of this update is the PHP minimum requirements. Okay, the WordPress minimum requirements, the fact that it's WordPress 5.0 now, it's nice, but we are on WordPress 5.3, so that's not a big deal. But PHP 7, it's I would say pretty big. Because they are. This is a bold step from a platform plugin like WooCommerce to take before the WordPress core does. So the WordPress core is at 5.6, and hopefully they will stay bold, so to speak, and push things because everybody gains. And the third thing that it's kind of small but kind of pretty important for everybody that uses WooCommerce for stores is the fact that we all need to do something regarding our geolocation. Ever since the GDPR in Europe, and especially now with CCPA in California, processes and rules surrounding privacy have gotten more attention and more complication, so to speak. And the WooCommerce uses a free database to geolocate one's visitors, customers, and so on. And that database for years was taken for granted. Basically, it was there, nobody cared, but it was crucial to keep things moving. But since everybody is freaked out about privacy, for good reason, MaxMind had to change ways and force everyone to actually make a free purchase of their database to stay within the limits of the law. And so we each need to go to MaxMind's site, make that free purchase, and get the license key that we would insert in WooCommerce, just to keep the database updated.
Yes.
So that's just something we all need to do. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, just go and do it.
Yeah,
get it over with. Yeah.
I
have to say that the one that you mentioned at the top, which is obviously the sort of big feature, I do like that. I think that's quite a nice, sophisticated little block. You know, if I go to an e-commerce page, basically that what we're looking at there is what I want to see. I want to see filtering by price, and I want to see filtering by whatever taxonomy, in this case color, is. And I want it to update in real time and have ratings and add to cart buttons. And there it is. And I presume, like I said, I'm no big user of WooCommerce. I presume I literally drag that block in, tinker with a few settings, and we're done, which is incredible. Yeah, really, really. Oh, and then, of course, you've got the option here for it to filter and change the direction of the display. So low to high, high to low, or whatever it might be. So that really is nice. And this, I think, more than anything that I've seen yet, shows the power of the block, because that is a heavy burden just to be placed in something that you drag in and let go of. And look at it, there it is, a whole ton of stuff going on. Really, really amazing. I don't know what the options are to tweak it. Anyway, this now ships WooCommerce 3.9. WooCommerce 4 is just around the corner, and Bob WP, who's taken a really cool step, I think. He's basically turned his whole blogging, podcasting network over to WooCommerce. My assumption is that he's going to stop talking about WordPress in general and focus only on WooCommerce. So he's the guy to go to if you want to keep on the bleeding edge. Anyway, here we go. 27th of January, he's talking about WooCommerce 4 coming out. And if you want to become a tester, basically go and click on this link, and you can help get WooCommerce 4 to come around sooner rather than later. Just a quick one over here. This is going back to David von Gries's Swift Control Pro. Jean-Francois said, regarding Swift Control, I think that David built this about 3 years ago. It's true, he did. He built it in-house for themselves. I asked if it was possible to add Wallace Inline, which is a plugin which enables you to edit in line with Beaver Builder, Elementor, and so on, as a button, and he added it in 2 to 3 days. I'm sold with this kind of proactivity from a developer. Well, great, well done, David, and I suppose Jean-Francois. It was nice that he knew that somebody wanted to have that. So marvelous, great stuff. What have we got next? I've never ever deployed this, but I know that it's very popular. This is the events calendar, used by, I think, a heck of a lot of people who are displaying calendar events on their website. Their old UI was great, I thought. I really liked it, but they've introduced a new one, and you can see some. I just think this is a really nice website. It does this is the sort of website I like to look at. If I could design a website for the events calendar, I would hope to achieve this. It just has all the bits that I like. They've got a new look, and this is it. And I think it's really nice. Anyway, so the point is, if you go into the events calendar very soon and it's been updated, well, you know why, because it has been updated, and now it's got this nice new fresh look, which is really nice. Look at that. Oh, I do like that. It's a bit sad, isn't it? I just like things like that scroll around and look lovely. So there we go. Well done. Bravo to Modern Tribe for putting that together. Also, friend of the podcast, Dimitri, and his crew over at Breezy. Oh, look, they've changed the logo slightly. It now just says Breezy Builder. That's interesting. I've not spotted that before. I wonder if that's their new way of describing it. Breezy Builder. They've got 14 new premium landing pages. I don't know why they call them premium landing pages if they're in the free and the pro version. I suppose by premium they're meaning very, very good. If you're a Breezy user, watch this video and then just scroll around on this page. I think these guys do a fabulous job of designing pages as well. And these, you can just point, click, drag them into your website, and you got these nice new bits and pieces. And one final nice new thing is the guys at 10up. We've all been there before. We've posted something and we wanted to post it out onto a social network. Well, the guys over at 10up have decided that they're going to release a Twitter plugin to do just that. It does one thing and one thing only. It posts things to Twitter when you press publish, and that's it. But anyway, plenty of my clients have wanted that capability in the past, and we've often ended up paying for a solution for it. But now 10up have built a free version, and that's the options. This is what you get. You get auto share enabled, and then you can customize it if you don't want it to take the excerpt. You can do like the featured image, excerpt, title, and so on and so forth. So there we go. That's quite nice. Right. That's it from plugins and themes. Couple of new deals to whet your appetite, fellas. I don't know if you're the kind of people that get sucked into AppSumo. I know I do all too often, sadly. I've never used either of these, and maybe you guys have, and you can tell me about that. But Wishlist Member, I believe it's got a gazillion downloads, and it's been available for 8 years or more. They've decided suddenly to put themselves in the AppSumo website, and you can buy, let's have a look, see what it is. Can't remember how many licenses. There you go. You can use 3 sites for $49. And if you're prepared to spend 3 times that, 147, you get 50 sites. And again, another plugin I've not used. I believe this is on Code Canyon regularly. It's called WP Data Tables. You can set it to import from a Google spreadsheet. But the idea is you get data and you make it look nice on tables on the front end. You guys ever played with either of those?
No,
me neither. I am surprised though that this one in particular, Wishlist Member, because I've heard about these guys for the longest time. Ever since I've been using WordPress, these were one of the people that got talked about as a membership solution. I'm surprised that they've done it, and it kind of makes me wonder.
I understand that there was a time where there wasn't a huge amount of development, and it maybe fell behind.
Right.
And then they put a lot of effort into bringing it up to date in a new version. And according to the Wishlist team on AppSumo, they wanted to go with AppSumo to get the word out and let people know and play with, the new features and the new interface. And the people who've looked at the new version who have been pretty happy with it. So it seems like, they're on a good track. I think they've gotten, as always with AppSumo, they've gotten a lot of feedback from people about things that they would want in integrations and whatnot. But
yeah,
there's been pretty good feedback on it.
It kind of worried me a little bit, because if I don't know. Okay, forgive me, Wishlist member, and forgive me, everybody who's bought it and has managed to get a great deal out of it. My immediate assumption upon seeing something that's been around for a very long time on a site like AppSumo is that because they're struggling and need to inject some money very quickly. And so that was my initial thought. But then, like you said, the guy who is responsible for the plugin, he wrote a very nice comment. You can pin this comment right to the top. And he did write exactly that. They wanted to get a load of feedback. And I think this was one of the quickest ways of doing it. And I think it blows up really fast. If you put something on AppSumo and it's popular, I think you're inundated with comments. So yeah, probably quite a good way of getting some comments. Anyway, look at that, $150 for 50 sites, and if I'm right, that's there you go, lifetime access, and also same thing. I don't know what the pricing is for this one, but you can display. There you go, 9 domains, $150. Right. Okay. Security. I don't really get into the security a great deal. Just to mention that there's a couple of things that have come my way. So just a very, very brief and light touch on the security. This is the first one on WebArcs. What I would say is, if you've heard of the WordPress code snippets plugin, you might want to go and get that one. Stop and just check. Oliver Sild writes about that. The other one, which I'm going to mention, because I quite like these types of posts. WebArcs do them, iThemes do them, perhaps some others do as well. I like this kind of article because you can just sort of scroll through it, and there we go. Straight away, we see a replication of the same content. You can just go through and look very quickly. Okay, I remember that one. I don't know about that one. And just hopefully you're updating your sites anyway. Speaking of updating your sites, this week, a chap who's been on the WP and Up podcast is Tim Nash. Tim Nash works for 34SP, and he tends to wear I think it's fair to say he tends to wear the security hat over there. He wrote this lovely long piece this week about why it's important to update your websites. It's mostly text, and he goes into all sorts of different ideas about the ways that you could update your website, daily, weekly, have some sort of schedule, have some sort of policy. But basically it boils down to find a way that works for you and then stick to it. But I know that, Vlad, you wanted to discuss this one, so I'll open it to you.
I'm not sure I'm going to discuss exactly what Tim said about, because he's merging the code side and the infrastructure side of WordPress with the processes and strategies that people owning a site or administering a site set themselves up to. So I think these are two different ways to converge to a safer web, so to speak. So on the one side, you take care of your own stuff, and on the other side, it's the WordPress project that takes care of the greater good, so to speak. And just like Tim explained, there isn't any one size fits all. So depending on your site, on the type of setup you have, how complex or how simple it is, you can get away with it or bang your head from time to time against the wall or staging sites on and so on. So it's not an easy life messing with security and updating plugins and themes and WordPress in WordPress. So what I'm trying to point out is that it's the whole discussion around updates in WordPress has come to payment day, so to speak. We've been pushing this to one side for years now, and the WordPress core has been doing this. So, but I believe with going from 30 to 40% of the web, of 10 million sites or so, things are not child's play anymore. And people are starting to realize that they have true responsibility when building WordPress. And rightly so, because vulnerability in WordPress or in a widely used plugin is a vulnerability of the web to some extent. I don't want to find out that WooCommerce has a vulnerability in it. And I don't know, all shops can be hacked if not updated. That would be crazy.
Yeah.
And scary as hell. So what I'm trying to point out, since we are talking to mainly developers, is that no matter what strategy we as site administrators would implement, it kind of basically defeats the purpose, because WordPress as the core, as the infrastructure, needs to take some steps, and you can't have security without some sort of automatic updates. So, because the stakeholders at the table of WordPress have changed or have gotten recognition. It's not only the site owners, but also the site visitors and users that are important. So if I have a plugin, just like the CFR RF attack before, I'm not affected as a site owner, but only my visitors get infected with a malware.
Right.
So I may have certain sites infected and not know it for years by design. So the people that exploit these holes in security don't want me, the site owner, to know. So only my visitors will know if they have some antivirus or some form of protection. But the really important question is to ask ourselves as WordPress community code builders, not builders, is to really acknowledge the responsibility that we have as WordPress, because we have a true responsibility to anyone visiting a WordPress site. And our seriousness towards tackling our own site security should take this into account, and we need to fully grasp this to grasp the wider reach of WordPress and our sites. So that's my philosophical take on this. If you would say that.
Yeah, no, I don't know what the other platforms do. Like I said, many years ago, moving away from Drupal and Magento, those CMSs, they had much more difficult procedures for updating. So, for example, you had to SFTP or in some way get the patch files onto the server, and then you had to manually visit the site and load up a update.php or something equivalent file, which would then run the particular jobs and so on. So it was a lot more difficult. So WordPress struck me. It was amazing. I really was amazed when I first used WordPress that there was a button that you clicked it and went away for a minute and came back and hopefully everything was fine. But now, as you say, if 33, 35, 40, and Matt wants 85% of the web to be running on WordPress, man alive, can you imagine if there was some really properly serious vulnerability in WordPress? That would be unconscionable, wouldn't it? It would be an absolute catastrophe. So the idea of having automatic updates, I think Tim is referencing like Windows here when he talks about Patch Tuesday, isn't he? Because don't they have their regular once a month patch that gets pushed? But my understanding with Windows is you don't have to. I don't use Windows, but you don't have to update. You can take those files or refuse to accept them, or have them and automatically update. My Mac, periodically, I basically leave it on, but I'll come back and it'll say we've rebooted your system because something updated in the background, and I don't even know if I set that up or if that's just the default. I kind of like that approach. I like the idea that Apple's taking control of that. It just leaves one less thing for me to think about. I guess
the difference is that your Mac or Windows is not accessible to the world.
Yeah, good point. Exactly.
Do all your friends come to use your Windows? No. So
and if it breaks, it's just me. Yeah. Exactly. So it's a very difficult thing. I spoke to oh my goodness, Gary Pendergast about this time last year, and he was talking about this exact problem, the responsibility that they feel. And how he is literally the guy very often who pushes the button to push the latest version of WordPress, and he said that moment is terrifying. You know, you've checked everything, you've triple checked everything, you've asked every single person that you can think of to make sure that everything's okay, and yet it's still you that's got to push the button. And that moment of, oh, this is 34% of the web, okay, go, right, it's fine. Mostly it's fine, but you're right, it's fascinating.
One more thing, you talked about big ambitions. So for one, nobody forces Matt to have these big ambitions, like 80% of the web. So he needs to own that. And we don't want WordPress to end up on the likes of Facebook. So with big ambitions, no responsibility.
Yeah.
So you need to, big ambitions come with big responsibilities, and you need to act accordingly.
David, I think you were trying to interject.
One of the things that I noticed about the article is, there are lots of different types of WordPress sites. There's some with WooCommerce. There's some that are brochure sites. There are some that are membership sites. And so, different types of sites can have a different process. I think, as you mentioned, Nathan, before the podcast started, you just have to have some process and stick with it. But one thing that he didn't mention in the article, for kind of the technical side or whatever, is that one thing you can do is you can take a snapshot before the update. So if there's a problem, then you can roll back. And so that gives a little bit more, more of a comfort zone in some cases, depending on the site, to go ahead and add automatic updates.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think this is well outside of the bounds of the WordPress project, but it having putting some, I'm not even going to say it. I was going to say put something like a backup into Core, so that it took a backup, dumped it somewhere that you specify before it updated itself. But no, that's not going to happen.
I think that having a database backup in Core makes a lot of sense.
Oh yeah. I just don't think it'll happen because there's too many things to go wrong, isn't it? But it was supposed to work, but you haven't got enough space on the disk, or it got corrupted, or that job never ran. Oh dear. Yeah, I think that would make perfect sense. I mean, of course, we all probably go out and buy either hosting, which takes care of this for us, or we buy some kind of plugin which takes care of the backing up for us. That's always my default. Before I update anything, I just make sure everything's backed up. And that gives me some security. It's a bit of a nightmare there when you actually have to use it, but nevertheless. Right. Anyway, enough on that. Thank you, Vlad, for your take on that. So this is timnash.co.uk. Go and check him out. He's a very, very, very nice chap. Right. Okay. Where are we now? Couple of things from WP Build. So me and David Wormsley, we released. Oh no, that's not it. What's this? Yeah. So we released a podcast episode. It's about the Brian E. Thomas book, Watertight Marketing. It's about the how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's about the 48th episode in the series, about marketing and leaking and trying not to leak clients. And so if you're interested in that, you could maybe go and check that out. That's all the WordPressy stuff I've got. So we've got 3 things which are nothing to do with WordPress. The first one is this one. Oh goodness dear. Is that really what TechCrunch want me to see? Is that? Come on, TechCrunch, we can do better than this, can't we? You're going to block all viewing of your articles before. Right, fine, I'll click accept. That's fine. So Facebook, obviously for the longest period of time, have been sucking out data about us, our faces, everything that you could possibly imagine. And some of this data, they allow other people to access. And it may well be, if you're like me, you've tried quite hard to lock it down and figure out where things are going. I expect the typical user of Facebook has no interest in delving into the settings and blocking various things. And obviously with the scandals over the last 2 years, Facebook having to take this a little bit more seriously. So TechCrunch this week report about all users can now access a Facebook tool for controlling which apps and sites can share data for ad targeting. So it's specifically if you want targeted ads that at least show some sort of semblance of what it is that you might be looking at. In other words, if you're after a lawnmower, maybe it's good to have lawnmower adverts. If you're not after a lawnmower, possibly not. But the quid pro quo there is that you've got to submit some of your search history or what have you. Facebook have now made it possible for everybody to access a tool which can clear the history, decide what you want. I've not used it. I just haven't had time. I will be using it because I'd rather see completely random adverts, frankly, than targeted adverts, just because I tend to ignore them more, which is, probably the antithesis of what Facebook want to hear. Anyway, there's a tool that you can use now. If you're a privacy advocate, you can go and download that and use it. I don't know if either of you guys care about what Facebook do with your data or have any thoughts on that.
I care a lot.
Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons I seldomly use Facebook. So
yeah.
I took a look at it, and I think it's a good first step. I still have some questions about it, but I think it's a good step that they're doing that. It's a little bit scary how many companies uploaded my my contact information to do a match, for advertising.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see who's doing that.
My guess, and I could be completely wrong, and I apologize, Facebook lawyers, for saying this. My guess is that this can't possibly hurt Facebook. There's no way they're going to release a tool which in any way jeopardizes a single penny of their revenue. But I could be wrong. Maybe it will. But it kind of feels to me like Facebook has over the past been such a dreadful custodian of our data which we freely gave over for a decade or more that we had no idea we were giving over, which suddenly it turns out was a mass of data. I don't know. I suppose it's something. It feels like a good PR piece. Whether or not it has actually got any teeth, time will tell. But I know Vlad's into this sort of stuff, so I thought I'd put that one in there for him to.
I'm going to check it out. I didn't know about it, but now.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, 2 more very quickly. First one is, this is just so good. This is so good. If you're into UX, I have no idea if the content of this piece is of any use whatsoever. Like zero knowledge whether it's useful. But man alive, somebody bothered to put together a website called batux.design, in which they explain via the medium of a Batman cartoon how to think about the UX of your website. I mean, what a labor of love. It's so good. Look at it. It's just a miracle. If I had the time to spend on stuff like this, I really wouldn't. I'd go off and do something else. But it's amazing. What a great website. Completely different. And then finally, again, totally random. Meet the Superhumans. Guardian. Did you guys get a chance to read this?
No, sadly, no.
David, did you?
No, I haven't read it.
Let me tell you about this then, right? So the Guardian have tracked down these humans who have literally unbelievable capabilities. So this lady, I mean, this isn't so much a capability as a lack of a capability. She can't feel pain, right? So literally no pain. So she could have all of her teeth pulled out and she wouldn't feel a thing, right? So I guess that's good or bad. But this guy can perform calculations, like really complicated mathematical calculations, faster than you can put him in a calculator. And he has no idea how he can do it. This guy cannot forget music. If he's heard a piece of music at any point in his life, he can play it on a piano, I think it is. I can't remember. So you could literally play him an entire concerto, a Mozart concerto, like 90 minutes, and then tell him to replay it, and he could do it without any mistakes immediately.
It's like a human Shazam.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it's him. This is no clever AI. There's just this guy on the end of the app. Yeah, and this lady, this is the most astonishing one of all. I think she can't forget anything. Every single sentence, memory, thought, even dream that she's had since the moment she was old enough to begin remembering. So from the age of about 1. She has it all verbatim down pat. So if you have an argument with her and you said, no, but I said, she's got it. She knows what you said. And I just thought that was a really interesting little piece. So I would thoroughly encourage you to go and read this, because it just, we talk about how amazing computers are all the time and all these wonderful things. Just what the human brain can do is pretty amazing as well. Right. That's all I got for you. Just before we finish, I always ask the guys on if they want to just drop anything, tell us what you're going to be doing this week. Entirely up to you. You could leave a Twitter handle for us to go and check, or a website. Again, it's up to you. But I'll start with you, Vlad. Are you doing anything exciting this week? And please feel free to self-promote.
Yeah, hopefully I'm going to do something good with this week.
Good.
But hopefully, yeah. Mainly, I plan on working on, let's say, styling systems, and specifically fonts styles and font palettes to go into our team offering. So mainly, I'm going to play with configs and JSONs and APIs and graphs and so on. So that's about how my week will turn out. And Gutenberg, not me, but my colleagues. So together with them, we're gonna jump between the database and Gutenberg and back and forth and back and forth. So kind of like that.
That sounds quite exciting.
Yeah. We've been at it in terms of styling with ease and with consistency for about 2 years now. And things start to coalesce, to come into some sort of form that we are confident and confident to put it in production. So it's exciting, and we are keen on showing it to the world.
We won't get into the debate right now, but there was a piece which popped up on my radar on the WP Tavern, WordPress Tavern. I think it was right at the end of last week, maybe even early this week. It was scheduled to come out about the future of themes, and I've been talking for several months now about my interest in where this is going, and obviously for somebody like you, this is really important. Yeah, must be an interesting time, shall we say? Well, good luck with all that. That's great.
Thank you.
And David, anything for you this week?
Well, tonight kicks off the election process in the United States. I live in Iowa, which is the first state.
Oh, yes.
And we've been getting, several phone calls every day and people coming to the house, knocking on the door. So it's been pretty crazy. So that part of it ends, tonight. And so that'll be nice to be able to answer the phone again without
without fear.
Without fear. But beyond that, just putting out a newsletter on kind of what's been happening in the Elementor scene the last month, and working on some reviews and tutorials, whatnot.
That's a good point. Sorry, I kind of cut you off because you added something, didn't you? You wanted to mark a couple of milestones about Elementor. Do you want to quickly mention those?
Oh, just I think just kind of congratulate them on hitting 4 million active installs. I think that's a big deal for them. And then they have a beta that they're putting out in their free version, so it'll be included in free and pro of first step and global styles, and as they say, kind of themeless, move towards themeless, building with Elementor. So interesting. You're talking about what's happening with themes. Gutenberg is making changes. Elementor is kind of jumping on the bandwagon.
They're trying to kill teams. So
I didn't want to put it quite like that, but
no, you can put it. So do we. We try to kill them before they die. So
well, they're definitely going to change. But 4 million from 3 million in 5 months, I think is right. Is amazing. I don't know what active means in the sense that I wonder. I mean, I don't wonder. I'm sure the number is very close to that, but I wonder how many of those are kind of up and running actual sites as opposed to, I don't know, staging sites and so on. Anyway, the number is extraordinary, and to go up by 1 million in 5 months is amazing. And like you say, the fact that they've put this global styling option into the free version is quite interesting, quite a bold move. Another feature which they've packaged in for free. Yeah, we seem to be talking about Elementor a lot, like WordPress a lot.
Yeah, I think they could be moving into kind of a realm where they're having influence on the larger WordPress ecosystem.
Yeah,
kind of like, I don't know if it'd be the same, but how Yoast, kind of helped define SEO for WordPress in some way.
Yeah.
They're kind of pushing the envelope.
Well, they officially sponsor events and things now, don't they? So they're welcome into the fold since they GPL'd themselves a year or so ago.
News, I think.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to say one last time thank you to Vlad from Pixel Grade and David from WebTNG. Be sure to go and check out their content. Go to look at their websites, and I'm going to mute the mics and say bye-bye for now. Please, Vlad and David, stick around for a second and we'll have a chat, but I'll just see if I can make this work. I'm always failing at this. Right, here we go. So I'm going to end the feed now.